mean, do you find that you have more money to record albums with, or more money to, or?
No. But we didn't really want more money to record with. If we wanted more money, just to have money, you know?
Yeah.
The word morphine comes from the word Morpheus, who's the god of dreams. And that appealed to us as a concept.
You play the bottleneck on a two-string bass. Is that your idea? Was that your idea to do that?
I guess.
Writing songs, you know, without a guitar, writing songs the way that he did was something that was pretty unique, and I think that, you know, he stands alone.
There's a lot of instruments with just one or two strings all around the world, and it's interesting because every string has every note, and it's really not a limitation at all once you get used to it.
I first met Mark in mid-December 1993, maybe mid to late December 1993 in Brittany, Western France. It was the first time I had ever made music out of the country, so it was my first time playing in Europe. And the show went really well, and I was doing press. And I was out back, and it was freezing cold. And I was doing press and interviews, and all of a sudden, I heard this sound. It was the sound. And I was just like, what in the fuck is that?
I remember the guy from Blues Traveler called up and he was like, I love your record. What's going on? Like, what's going on over there? Or like, we'd get phone calls in the middle of recording where people would go like, how you getting that sound? And we'd say, well, it's a two-string slide bass. And they'd be like, oh, okay. You know, I can't do that.
It's much easier with just two strings, because if you have more than two strings, then it's very easy to hit a wrong note. You know?
This is kind of a Mark thing. It was very interesting what he had done with the bass. You know, I have to admit, when I see a band, that's the first cat I focus on. I'm trying to relate, you know, what I would do in their plays. Because usually, you know, from the old days, especially with hierarchy of rock and roll, basses, like where you put the lame dude, kind of retarded friend, sort of like right field in Little League. Like nobody's going to hit the ball out there.
I started out on one string because that was the easiest, and I gradually promoted myself to two strings, and now that feels pretty complete.
Okay, but people like Doug Wimbish, who's a well-known bass player, should say, I need my four strings.
No, one really is all you need.
One is all you need?
Yeah. This is just extravagance on my part, you know.
What I do on lap steel and what he was doing on the bass was is connected. I mean, there's
it requires a lot of contribution from Billy and Dana to make it work within this format, because we can't fall back into traditional roles within the band because of the instruments.
There'd be songs on the set list some nights, you know, Mark would write a set list, and there'd be a song on it that you'd just look at and go, what's that? And he'd go, you remember that riff, you know, we played 2 weeks ago? And you're like, you know, we've been playing every day, there's been a lot of riffs, man. Oh, you'll remember. And he'll just start in, and you wing it.
See how you can take those jams that you do with your buddies on a porch or around a campfire, get that freedom, that energy of really not trying to do anything or make anything happen from it other than what it can be at that moment, and try to capture that on tape, try to demystify the idea of recording.
You play this bass guitar, but the other instrument in the band, the baritone sax, is quite unusual for rock music as well.
Well, you hear it in rock more than you might think. Prince uses a baritone sax a lot, and Los Lobos use a Little Richard used to use 2 baritone saxes, so I think it's the most rock of all the saxophones.
It's dark brown. It's got a very deep and dark brown sound.
Dark and rich and very warm in the hands of Dana Colley.
That was smart about him keeping it a trio, so the bass could be prominent like that.
You played in front of about 40,000 people. How did it feel?
It felt good. Good people out there, I could tell. All over Europe, Japan, and all over the U.S., Canada.
Wow, where do you get best received?
You know, it's been pretty good everywhere. Well, hello, Belgium. Very happy to be here. I've seen about 100 meters of your city, and it's just beautiful. Thank you. And we always learn how to say welcome and thank you very much in whatever language that we need to. And
Spanish?
Spanish even, yeah. Portuguese, Norwegian,
yeah.
Italian, whatever, Japanese.
People are also talking about the 60s and the 50s, about you, about the jazz sound, also about the black films and things like that. Do you agree with that, or do you think
Film
it's
noir? You mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think that we incorporate some of those elements into our music, but we incorporate a lot of things, and not just music, but books that we read and movies that we see and people that we know and stories that we hear and television programs.
He never went Hollywood. I mean, actually Hollywood went morphine in some respects because we had so many music licenses and all these film people wanted to use our music in their movies.
Nothing's gonna shake me, nothing's gonna make me change. That's the way I am, and I'll always be the same. Oh, nothing's gonna shake me, nothing's gonna make me change. That's the way.
One of the calls I got was from DreamWorks, and DreamWorks was a brand new record label that had started, with the people from Disney and David Geffen and Katzenberg, and they were interested in kind of creating this new entertainment media conglomerate.
If you could write the soundtrack to any movie, by who would you choose? What director would you choose?
How about Robert Altman? Is he available?
Well, I think so. He's open to a lot of ideas, I think.
Bob, give me a call.
The people they brought in to run DreamWorks Records were fantastic, respected, renowned record executives, which was Mo Austin, Michael Austin, and Lenny Waronker.
There are a handful of artists that I felt would be a wonderful statement as a record company to sign, especially a young company where you're trying to make a mark in terms of who you are.
And the second artist they signed was Morphine.
Flag I wouldn't fly, a mountain that I couldn't climb. I was always on my way. Nothing gonna shake me, nothing gonna make me change. That's the way I am, and I'll always be the same.
But he wasn't somebody who was just going to pick up and move to Hollywood and just become Hollywood guy. Like, he just wasn't that person, He loved Massachusetts. I really felt like he resonated, and he went back, he went back home, even though he traveled the world and loved to continue to travel and see the world. Like, I think home was something that was really symbolically really important for him.
song or write a book about yours truly. Oh, I'm so interested and I'm so great. I'm really just a fuck up and it's such a waste to burn down these walls around me, flexing like a heartbeat. We don't like to speak, don't talk to me for about a week. I'm sorry, it just hurts to explain. There's something going on that makes my gut sick. I got guilt, I got fear, I got regret. I'm just a panic-stricken waste. I'm such a jerk. I was honest, I swear. The last thing I wanna do. Honest, I swear. The last thing I wanna do is ever cause you pain.
But he got sick in Brazil, and that's why he came home.
At the end of his time in Brazil and then Alaska and so forth, he did come back to Boston.
It was an intestinal thing that was affecting his kidneys and some others. It was pretty serious.
And went to get his degree at UMass Boston. Now, I don't know if that was because Bob and Tel urged him to do so and or what, but he did.
I think he really wanted our approval, and he got it for that, because those were our values. You have to remember that both of us were children of the Depression. Security is terribly important to me, and I didn't see any security in what Mark was doing. He bummed around, and he played music with little groups. He didn't know Roger that well because he was off doing his thing when Roger was growing up. He and Johnny had become good friends at that point. What was Mark doing? Losing Johnny Mark was terribly distraught, and he didn't know Roger that well because he was off doing his thing when Roger was growing up. But it was very sad, and he really broke down a lot, and I ached for him.
It really just made everything worse in some ways. Especially when John died, because he was the one, he had a really good sense of humor, and he would always crack a joke when things were tense and sort of lighten things up. And he was a really good mediator in the family. So that was a big hole when he died.
After Johnny died, Mark decided he had to make something of himself, and he was going to do something special. He was going to be somebody special, and that became his goal. He criticized us, rightfully, I guess, that we didn't really listen to his music or to any music. He said, music for you is like a background. When I play music, I want people to listen to my music and my words and what I've done.
Things that happened to him with the death of his brothers, his relationship with his family.
I think he had an extra drive and an extra commitment.
Everybody's lined up at the castle gates. Say goodbye to Johnny, Godspeed him on his way. He's going off to join his father and his father's father too. Going to rest a while now, there's nothing we can do. Bye bye Johnny, I'll see you all too soon. Bye bye Johnny, I'll see you all too soon. Come on.
It just took him a while to digest the losses maybe of his brothers. And then once he did, he was totally on fire. There was no stopping him. All he did was write all the time.
Bye bye Johnny, I'll see you very soon. Bye bye Johnny, I'll see you all too soon.
Mark was a very private and a very guarded man. Some say he was a bit elitist. That has been said also of me. Thinkers tend to be private.
Mark Sandman, he was a secretive guy. And there were certain things that were off topic or things that he wouldn't talk about when he was doing press.
Lead singer Mark Sandman, he's just a very slow, laconic person. He doesn't like to explain things too much, likes to talk very slowly. I think he kind of likes subverting the interview process.
How do you like Australia?
It's cool. It's very easy going.
Easy going, yeah. Those guys are really easy going on smiley, happy people.
Well, yeah.
Except for the axe murderers.
Axe murderers.
But even those guys are pretty happy from what I hear.
I see.
There was an ugly axe murder in Sydney when we were there.
Axe murder, someone
was killed with an axe, yeah.
Oh, really? Wow, you guys were there?
Yeah, right near our hotel.
Really?
Yeah.
I see.
They never found him.
Really? So after all, they're not really happy. No.
Well, there's this one guy with an axe who's unhappy. Who's not happy.
And the guy who got wasn't very happy either.
鎌というか木を切るときに使うやつありますよね。あれなんて言うんだろうな。鎌っていうの斧だね。斧殺人が。
You know, I think Mark and I sort of felt that both Billy and I became his surrogate brothers, having lost both Johnny and Roger, and both were about Billy's age and my age. Johnny played the saxophone, and I happened to play the saxophone. So I think there was some, surrogate relationship there that I was unaware of until I finally got the story of what happened.
not sure if I felt like it was subverting the interview process as much as making sure it didn't end up going to places that he wasn't interested in going.
It wasn't like he opened up. It was like you just sort of learned these things as you went along.
Tell us a little bit about your music, Mark.
Music? The first time we met, he did everything he could to make sure that I didn't actually get any of his words on tape. You know, he was walking into the corners of the room and talking in his sort of low growl in which it seems like he's almost swallowing his words. So at the end of that, the first longer interview we had, I came away with the tape of me asking a bunch of, you know, slightly nervous questions and nothing else on the tape.
51% of the time we like to be together. 51% of the time
It wasn't until talking to Mark's friends who were older than I was at the time that I realized, you know, and then heard the stories of what had happened with Roger and Johnny. You know, I mean, he handed me his brother's saxophone one day, and just because he wanted me to have it, he wanted me to play it. And you know, I preferred my own, so I said, you know, Mark, I really appreciate this, but you know, I feel more comfortable on my own instrument. But I mean, that was kind of when I realized the first time that he had a brother, that he no longer was alive, you know.
You do that a lot?
What's that?
Sort of hide yourself away in the songs?
Merci beaucoup tout le monde ici. Tout. Et maintenant, le moment de poésie. Comme ça. One.
By spring of '92, I was able to come back and start playing. But for whatever reason, it wasn't quite the same. Mark and I there was already tension around the whole thing. It was why I'd been gone.
Let's see. First of all, Billy Conway is the full-time drummer now, and I think there's a lot more unity in the band, and that it's reflected on the album.
Which I sort of felt like, you know, it was one of those, it had never been discussed.
Sharks patrol these waters. Sharks patrol these waters. Hey, don't let your fingers dangle in the water.
It was like pulling teeth to discuss anything, and that just wore on me. And I think it wore on Mark too. I mean, he, like I say, for all his cool hipster vibe, when you scratch the surface, it really wasn't there.
People thought that because of his persona, you know, and the music was sort of very low, and he kind of cultivated this persona in some sense, and the media also just sort of ran with it. His last name, most people couldn't believe his name actually was Sandman.
And don't you worry about the Day-Glow Orange Life Preserver. It won't save you. It won't save you. Swim for the shore just as fast as you were able to swim like a motherfucker.
He could get quite tense. He could get uptight. He wanted things to be easy in the sense that he wanted things done his way.
When you suffer a lot of loss in a family, the impulse to, you know, to self-pity or to mythologize your pity somehow, or to just give in to the sorrow of it, he sort of had the opposite reaction. You know, it's kind of like, it puts into relief the fact that you're alive. What are you going to do?
Swim! Swim, swim.
Mark could be the biggest asshole in the world, and I definitely had tons of fights with Mark, and tons of differences, and for quite a while, I felt bitter towards Mark because I felt like, he had really. I don't feel it this way so much anymore, but I felt almost like he had this plan. He goes, "Oh, this guy, how's he getting these gigs? How's he? Well, I'll hook up with this guy. See how it works. Blah blah blah. So I kind of felt like he crawled up my back to get where he got."
Mark was a super talented guy and a really intelligent guy and a lot of fun to be around, but he could be a total dick. And there were a couple of occasions in the span of my working with him where he was such a dick that I just said, you know what, I got to take a break.
First is after scene just two. Now, the ever-glorious now, the ever-present now. Dredged in flour and deep fat fried and cooled on paper towels and then devoured. I spent 15 years in a life raft. 15 years. Now I got something to say. Stay in your lifeboats, people. Stay in your lifeboats. It's murder out there. Sharks patrol these waters. Sharks patrol these waters. Hey, don't you worry about the Day-Glo Orange Life Preserver. It won't save you. Swim for the shore just as fast as you were able to swim. Come on and swim.
And, when you're in a band with somebody, there's lots of tension, and, it's easy to just see all you see is this other person thwarting you. And that's how he felt about me, too, a lot of times. He was like, how can you be so stupid as to think this is a good idea, and vice versa.
They went to Detroit to do a radio station, one of these big, play in front of a ton of people kind of radio station gigs, and he came back kind of all puffed up and rock starred out and, insulted us, and I told him to fuck off.
Point is, I think a lot of people thought of him as cold and cool and aloof and inaccessible, but he was just relaxed and waiting for something to spark his interest.